I've seen changes in my body, legs, arms, back, big time back, forearms, and, well, not abs, but abs. It does work that too. But basically it works your whole body, so it's good for any woman to try it, I must say.
It has empowered me as a woman, and I really persuade other women to do it.
I would recommend it in that it increases your self-confidence, and I think you could also use it as a self-defense. I always, if I feel that I'm in a bit of a dodgy situation, I always think up moves that I could do, and I think I would be able to defend myself. And it's also good to stand up against the men, because there's a lot of men, and I like to go into the RODA and show them what I'm made of.
Coming up, living with multiple sclerosis, Lauren Singer makes music, even with a string or two missing.
Welcome back. You're watching The Power Within. Lauren Singer is an author and leading expert on multiple sclerosis because she has it herself. Living successfully with the condition, one of Lauren's great insights was seeing MS as a mischievous and meddling character she had to forge a relationship with.
Multiple sclerosis is an illness of the central nervous system, that is the brain and spinal cord. So as much as I would like to move my legs easily, I can't, because the message just is not going from my brain and spinal cord to my nerves, etc., etc. And then you know that MS has got many effects further than just not moving the muscles. It can cause depression, it can cause cognitive thinking difficulties and things like that. And in retrospect, I can look back on my life and see exactly that the difficulties that I was having must have been caused by the multiple sclerosis.
Lauren grew up in the old Rhodesia and showed the first signs of pending illness at the age of 16. But the diagnostic tools were not as sophisticated then as now, and it was only 10 years later that Lauren was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis.
I had to adjust my life practically in many ways. My dad used to say to me, Lauren, try not to destroy the house. People have said, well, fight MS. No, I can't fight MS. I can't fight my illness, because if I fight my illness, it just takes too much energy. I would rather work with it. I would rather see, all right, so this is what you are demanding of me. And this is what are the parameters that you've set me. All right, so then I'm meant to work within them. I've called in my first book, I've called multiple sclerosis a mischievous fiend. Okay. And that's what it is. It's taken on a life of its own. By the way, it's always he. Multiple sclerosis is never she, it's always he. I'm sorry to say that. I suppose it's a bit sexist, but that's the way that I feel. But he is part of me. The illness is part of me. And I cannot fight against myself. I've got to accept myself and grow to love my own inadequacies, and grow to love the fact that this hand doesn't work so well, this hand works better. It's to get to feel that this hand is okay. It's to get to feel that I'm okay. Yeah. But it's somehow trying to bridge the gap between yourself, who's not well, and everybody else that you see around you. You don't want to be in this new world that you've suddenly been put into. You don't want to be somebody that is going to get worse or better or whatever. You just want to live your usual life. At the age that I am, it should have been fantastic. That I'm not married and I don't have children is not the fault of MS. It's just the way that things worked out in my life. Okay, 1, 2, 3, up we go.
Okay, hold
Okay, all right, okay.
Find your balance first.
Okay, I've got to get my bum tucked
Bum in.
Bum in, okay. Oh, you know what? I went over my toe.
You what?
I got the walker on my toe, which was a little bit painful. And now,
Lauren,
can I do
this is perfect. Wonderful.
Hey,
Maybe you just
Chica.
concentrate on balancing. How would that be?
One of the most difficult things that I've found is my fatigue. There's a mental fatigue that is, with everything, I suppose, is difficult to encapsulate. It's as if I'm walking through the mud and the mire and the sludge in my mind, because it just doesn't, I don't think quickly, and I'm not able to keep track of things. Sometimes, you know, it happens. I want to tell something to somebody, and it is something important, but I get hit up. I get emotionally, if I'm having an argument with somebody, or I'm not able to get the words out. And that's when I feel as if I've just got to zone out. I've got to lie down, perhaps, or I sit and I watch TV. And that's when I don't test myself too much. And I don't make too many demands, and I understand myself. But it is hell of a frustrating. She also bought a special...
Lauren spends a lot of time researching multiple sclerosis on the internet. With voice-assisted software, she can also now pursue her first love, writing. With great pride, Lauren recently completed her third book.
I have always wanted to write. I was terrible at writing essays at varsity. I was always scared that I was going to, that I'd be accused of plagiarism, so everything had 50 footnotes and sort of like got me stuck. Then I had to write a book on multiple sclerosis, and I had a bit of a problem. The disability unit at UCT had asked me to write a book on multiple sclerosis. Wonderful, I thought. I can write about this, but I didn't know what to do. Was I going to be personal? I couldn't sort of say, oh, by the way, I have this illness that I'm writing about. So I decided that I'd divide it into have a factual bit, which I knew that I had to give footnotes to, and then I could give my own feelings, and there were no footnotes to that. And that's when I learnt how wonderful it is to actually get to write down what you feel. And the thing is, what I also discovered was that with writing, I could be quite light. The lighter, the better. Then there was a huge boom, loud enough to make my bones jangle. Deafening. Fearful, but not as fearful as Lars' cry of anguish. My computer is gone. Dead. It won't even switch on. So Lauren had to buy a new computer. The second book that I wrote, I've got to be honest with you, not that I've ever been dishonest, I did not write it. No, I did not. So then who did? My wonderful service hound, Fred, who is lying at my feet at the moment, and every now and then, if you listened very carefully, you might hear his comments. You may think that they are moans and groans, but they are his well-considered comments. Fred at your service, ma'am, Reminiscences of a Service Dog, was the greatest fun to write. Because I could look at things, and I knew that I was going to write things that people were going to read, I could write about difficult things, but in a light way, because you don't expect a dog to be depressed. And that was the big thing for me. I could tell stories about myself and not become too self-involved and have a lightness to it. I think this is very, very important. That Fred's book can be, I always say, from 9 to 90 people can read it. The only thing is that I don't know that I would have been able to overcome things and progress with things in the way that I have were it not for my parents and my family. My mum is a tower of strength. You know, somebody that I can talk to and somebody that I can lean on. My father was the most wonderful man. He passed away 2 years ago. He had prostate cancer, which spread. The man was in terrible pain. Whenever I think of my dad, I just feel so warm and so joyful inside. You know, one of the most important things for me is to maintain my dignity, maintain a good sense of myself. What does that mean? It means, even if I'm not going to be going out, not to look like a complete schlump, not to just wear tracksuits, not to stay in my pajamas except for the weekend when that's so nice and comfy. I try to look the best I do and the best I can do. I love clothes. I love wearing clothes and I love new fashions and I'm like every other woman in the world. Now, women actually love shoes. I am not an Imelda Marcos. I don't have a whole lot of shoes, but I do love clothes. I tell a story in my latest book of a time when I lived in Israel. I worked in the research laboratory of a geriatric and psychiatric hospital, and we often had psychiatric patients wander in. There was one particular chap that I remember, young man, fresh-looking, he must have been drugged out of his mind, I suppose. One day he came and he sat down cross-legged in the corridor, and he started playing his guitar. And he was so happy playing his guitar. And I loved listening to him. But you know, the strange thing is, when I looked at him and looked at the guitar, I noticed that there was one string missing. And that, I think, is an analogy that sticks with me. How many of us really have a full complement of strings? I don't know. The trick is to make music with what you do have, to be happy with the music that you do make, to give yourself pleasure and to give others pleasure, and to be creative with what you do have. And that, I think, is stuck with me, because I know that I have a lovely talent that I'm going to share with people. I'm not perfect. I don't have a full complement of strings. I'm not able to do everything. I'm not able to manage 100% well. But I can manage enough, and I can do enough, and I can make music that others will want to listen to.
Next week on The Power Within, we meet a woman who faces life's challenges with enthusiasm and confidence.
Being raised in the same manner as my brothers and sisters and pretty much all other regular kids was good for me. It was good for me in many ways because the expectations were as high as for any other human being and a child growing up. And I think that was really important because I wasn't mollycoddled and I wasn't, there wasn't too much sympathy and empathy, and I didn't get away with things. So I never became somebody that gave up on things, or when they were too difficult, I had to push through because that was what was expected of my siblings and of me.
And from a shaky foundation to building homes, Thandi Hlabiaga makes her mark in a male-dominated world.